Hi there guys, welcome to episode 9 of Real Estate in Real Life. We're joined here today with Camilla Bystead. She is one of our highest performing sales brokers in the company. She's been with us since the inception of White & Co. She started her journey in real estate as a leasing broker and has progressed the whole way through to now one of our most senior agents. She is going to give us a good insight into what Dubai real estate is like and what Dubai real life is like. The reason why we're doing these videos, if this is the first time that you're tuning in, is so that we can give an authentic and transparent view into the Dubai real estate and everything to do with Dubai. So Camilla, hi.
Hi.
What was life like for you in the UK growing up?
I'm from Scotland. Life was quite normal for me. Grew up with my mum, only my mum, single parent. She did a good job of raising me, I would say. And yeah, it was an average life in the UK, to be honest. I can't complain about it, but I also can't say it was unbelievable.
Growing up in the UK, what jobs did you have that led you to coming to Dubai?
So I actually started working for a company called Postcode Lottery a couple of years before I ended up making my move to Dubai. I was in sales for about a year before I moved into like more of a customer service role, and yeah, it wasn't a bad job at all, but it also wasn't thrilling. It wasn't thriving. It didn't really motivate me to do more than the 9 till 5 typical job. So yeah, I mean, it was a great job. Everyone was great, but that's as much as I can say about the actual job I did in the UK.
Okay, fantastic. So moving on from that, you then decided you wanted to move to Dubai. What made you decide to move to Dubai, and was real estate your first choice?
No, real estate wasn't my first choice. I actually looked at doing Emirates. I always knew I wanted to sort of move from the UK. Dubai wasn't very Dubai when I moved to Dubai like 6 years ago. So I looked at doing Emirates. I knew a few people over here doing real estate. So I got on a flight. I thought better to get a job when I'm actually in Dubai. So I stayed with a friend when I moved here. And I actually ended up being an auditor for another real estate company for about a week, and I hated it. So I actually fell into real estate rather than...
So what does an auditor do, sorry?
So they would like listen to calls. So if an agent gets a call from a client, I would listen to the call, make sure they were doing their job correctly, basically, on that first point of contact.
Okay.
The reason I actually left is they wanted me to start listening to calls and checking people were turning up to their viewings, which I don't think is great. You're on a commission-based role. You shouldn't be doing that sort of checks onto your agents.
Okay.
So I actually fell into real estate. I didn't plan to do it. I saw how much money people were making. I didn't plan to do it. I fell into it because I quit my job after a week.
Okay, fair enough. So real estate wasn't your first choice.
No.
And that leads me on to Dubai. What did you know about Dubai, and what made it so exciting, or what made it the right choice to move to?
I think the safety aspect and the tax-free aspect for me was a massive thing. Like I say, Dubai wasn't Dubai when I moved here. So it was more so how much I could potentially earn, how much I could change my life, that sort of brought me here in the first place, because even though I was on a salary to begin with, it was a tax-free salary. So the type of life I could live was so much different to what it was in the UK. Weather, can go on and on.
Okay, fair enough. And when you say, which you've said a couple of times now, Dubai wasn't Dubai when I moved here, what does that mean?
So when I first moved to Dubai, there wasn't the brunches that we all kind of go to now. There wasn't the, how do I put it? There wasn't the sort of luxury lifestyle. Like, it was literally a desert when I moved to Dubai. It was built up to an extent, but it's come a massive way in the last 6 years I've come here.
Okay, so you feel like it's been a lot of growth in the...
Yeah, growth. That's the perfect word to use, yeah. There's been a lot of growth in Dubai, and even to this day, like, if I look back on Dubai a year ago, it's completely different.
Okay, fantastic. Amazing. Thank you for that insight into what makes Camilla Bystead. Now, you've moved to Dubai, you're in real estate. Something that happened was during COVID, they released Selling Sunset on Netflix, and then also I'm a big fan of $1 Million Listing, and that's obviously an amazing show. But does it showcase what real estate's really like? There's a lot of glitz and glam in there. As someone who does this every single day, how would you compare Dubai real estate to the likes of Selling Sunset or $1 Million Listing?
I I would say the only thing that's real about that is the glam side. I have to get up every morning and do my makeup and my hair. But apart from that, it doesn't actually show you the true work you put into everything that you do. On these shows, it'll show you that doing one viewing and then 10 minutes later, they're like, we're at escrow.
Yeah.
That's not what happens. There's a lot of in between. There's a lot of days where I don't get home till 8 o'clock at night. There's a lot of days where I go to bed at 8 o'clock, but I'm sitting texting till about 12 o'clock to all these different landlords, sellers, etc. in different countries.
Yeah.
So I don't think it properly gets across the true hard work as agents put into our jobs. We put in a lot of hard work. We value a lot of our clients, and I don't think these shows really show that.
No, definitely. I know, just even from having conversation with you in the office, like the times that you're up sometimes discussing villas with your clients, we're talking 2-3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're still in the office at 8 a.m. because you're one of the first in there. And you know, you don't see that on these shows, unfortunately. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them, but I think people need to understand that those shows are entertainment and this is your career in real life. Because I love watching them too. But I wish that every agent in our company just turned up to a viewing, got an offer of full ask and then closed it the next day. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. The likelihood of that happening is, it happens. I've had it happen to me where that does happen, but a lot of behind the scenes people don't actually see. So like you say, it's working till 8 o'clock, 3 a.m. sometimes. I'm literally sleeping, and if I hear my phone ping, I wake up and I reply to whoever it is. So it's like people don't see the true, like I say, the true hard work that goes in behind all of these deals that happen.
Amazing. Okay, fantastic. I think that's a good way to explain it. Camilla, you have been in the industry for a few years now. It's commission-based only, or as I love to call it, performance-based. You have offers from multi-millionaire landlords and sellers who say, come work for me, I'll give you a salary of this, I'll give you a salary of this, I'll give you a salary of this. And I'm talking about people who are billionaires and millionaires. But yet you still choose to come in to a job when you don't know what your paycheck's going to be every month. What challenges do you find in this industry?
So I would say the biggest challenge I find in this role as such is, like you say, I've been doing it for 6 years now. And along the way, I've found a lot of people who come in here as a job, not a career, in terms of when I'm working with my clients, I really set out for them. I will get them what they want. But the issue is people who don't care and are literally just here as a job for a year or two, they come in and they sort of undercut you in ways. They try and take your clients from you by lying, by being spiteful, or anything that might come around. I mean, on the other hand, whether the client goes with them or doesn't, they always end up coming back to me. So it is okay. But I would say that's one of the biggest challenges, is because of how Dubai is blown up all over the world. We find a lot of people come without the true ambition to do well for their clients, and it's more so money based. They
just want a quick buck, and they don't care about the clients, and it ends up causing more damage because just for anyone who's not understanding exactly what you're saying, you and a client are speaking and you've given them all the right information. Agent A comes out of nowhere, starts giving them false information because they just want the client. Client then wastes a week dealing with that agent because they've been fed all this fake information. Then they come back to you and go, oh, what that guy was saying was a bunch of rubbish.
Or like,
please help me.
Yeah, or for like example, like they'll call a seller. I'll have a deal agreed. They'll call a seller and say, I can get you 5-10 million more. They can't. I can't convince the seller that if he's getting offered 10 million more, a week later the seller comes back and my buyer's bought something else. So this is the challenges I face. It's more that is my challenge in this role rather than, and I suppose the sort of the commission-based aspect, but that's not really, it is a challenge when you have months where you don't sort of make money, in sales especially, rather than anything, because sales can take a few months. But if anything, it's sort of more a drive rather than
because you control your own paycheck.
Exactly.
It's fantastic. Well, that's good. That gives a bit of insight into what it's like. Fine. Thank you so much. So that moves us on to, you know, is this job life-changing, and what keeps you in real estate? I suppose it kind of comes back to my last question, which was, you know, you get all these offers, and we kind of touched on it there when I said you can control your own paycheck, but what keeps you in real estate?
Do you know what? I actually don't have an answer for what keeps me in real estate, because I probably say every year this is my last year, but it'll never be my last year.
Why will it never be your last year?
It's a job that you just fall in love with. It's my own hours in terms of obviously I'm 6 years deep now. So for the first 2 years, you work really, really hard. After that, you sort of build up a network of clients and sellers, etc. It's the most freedom I can have in my entire life. If I want to go on holiday next week, I can go on holiday next week. And I don't think there's any other job in the entire world where I control my own hours. I know I work for a company, but ultimately I control my own hours. I control my own paychecks. I control my life. Every other job, let's take it back to the UK, has a control of your life. They take half your money from tax. They make sure you're working 9 till 5. You only get 20 days holiday.
Yeah.
And all of that is sort of limiting to where your life can go. So sort of keeping me in real estate, I would say that. And also for the fact that I genuinely get satisfaction from my clients being happy in the houses. When I turn up to a transfer and I've got a wife and a husband that's so excited to now start a new life in a villa, it gives me satisfaction. So I think all of these combined, it's a nice job to have.
It's very interesting because the last person we had interviewed or sat down with was Liam, and Liam's 6 months into it, and you're 6 years into it, and Liam's doing a fantastic job. But I think the levels that you're at in your careers, it's just a big contrast. And you know, when you have been doing it as long as you and doing as well as you do get that level of freedom. Whereas the honest answer is, for anyone who's listening, is Liam does not have that freedom yet. Even though he's doing fantastic, we need to consistently see that for a few more years until you've got that trust. And you know, something that I think a lot of the people that have sat down here have said, and you just said it as well, you just said it, the satisfaction you get from helping the clients. The commission is a byproduct. Your service is what matters. And I think, you know, I know when you sell properties to people that next week they're telling you to come round to the housewarming, and that's something that, you know, it's not about the money for you.
No,
money's great.
I've genuinely made friends from selling houses, and like you say, the commission's amazing, but it's the friendship aspect, of
course,
from doing my job.
Yeah, absolutely, and that makes perfect sense. So thank you so much. Appreciate that answer. Camilla, in your real estate career, which I've seen a lot of, you've had good months, you've had bad months, you've had months that have been unbelievable to some people. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I just mean when you hear the amount of money, and then you've had other droughts where there's been a couple of months where things just haven't went right. And when you're working at the price point that you're working at, you know, you're dealing with multi-millionaires. You cannot sell a villa right now without dealing with a multi-millionaire.
Correct.
That then leads me on to, where do you see yourself in a year? Because you're already climbing so far up the ladder. How does it get higher for Camilla? And just know, with this being recorded, we'll be looking back a year from now and seeing if we've kept you accountable for it.
I would say doubling what I'm doing now, if not doing more. I think for me in a year's time, I would like to get more involved with my buyers, in terms of, a lot of my buyers at the moment are buying villas to renovate, to do this type of thing. And I think in a year from now, I would like to have a few potentially projects under me where I help them renovate the villas, help them furnish it, help them do the interior design. And I think just the way I'm going, that is how it's going to be. So I think in a year from now, I'll be doing my job, but I'll also be doing bits on the side to sort of help clients and whatnot. Yeah,
amazing. And it's only going to, you know, solidify you as an expert at what you do, and the referrals that'll come from that will be brilliant. So yeah, amazing. Well, I look forward to seeing that a year from now, and let's make sure that we are more involved with our clients.
Yeah.
I mentioned in that last question about how you've had tough times, you've had great times, but during those tough times, you've always got the option of throwing in the towel. What keeps you going during the tough times? Or, you know, as Aidan says in our trainings with our performance coach, what's your why?
I honestly think my why is purely to help. Money isn't the be all or end all, but it helps the world go round, doesn't it? So my why is probably my mum. If she ever needs help or anything like that, my why is I can help her within a heartbeat. I don't need to think about it. Also, my why is my future. So right now, it's tough. It is what it is. But it's making an easier life for myself in the future. So my why is my family right now. And also my own sort of wants and needs right now. If I want to go on holiday, if I want to buy something, I can. And like I said, touching back to what I said at the very beginning, I can't do this with a job back home. So my why is, in days that I really do want to pack it in, is I think to myself, I'm never going to do what I'm doing and be able to help the people I help with packing it in.
There's not another option.
There's not another option. And I think, my why is purely just for my future. Like,
so you're trapped.
No.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah. No, my why is my future. When I eventually have a family, I want an easy life for my family. When I eventually have kids, I want them to have an easy life. I never had the easiest life growing up. I'm sure my mum will be fine with me saying that, but I didn't have the easiest life. I was working since I was 15, 16. I was helping family. I was, which I'm more than happy to do, but now it's easier to help family out. It's easier to do that. And when I am older and have kids and a family of my own, they don't need to worry.
Yeah. And you're a very generous person. And it's interesting, again, the contrast, yourself, 6 years in real estate, Liam, 6 months in real estate, but both you guys are talking about how sacrificing now leads to being able to have the freedom in 20 years, 10 years, however long it's going to be. And it's good to see the same mindset across different brokers in the company, because it's what we try to instill in you guys. This isn't a job, this is a financial vehicle to get freedom.
Yeah. And in the UK, people are working till they're 70. I'm hoping to retire by the age of 35, probably.
Yeah, and
let's see.
You'll probably be there. Let's be honest. But
I'm young enough now to be working and putting in the hours. I'm young enough at 35 to potentially retire.
Sorry, can I stop you there? And this is a question I hadn't prepared you for, and I just want to ask it because it's just off the back of what you just said. It's not the people in the UK's fault that they're working till 70. Or the people that are your age right now in the UK, or maybe Liam's age, 21. Do you feel like they're told there's nothing better out there? It's all doom and gloom, and you have to, get a job, get a house, get a car, get a dog, have a kid. That's life.
Yeah. It's not that they're told that. I just don't think they're shown that there's anything else. Like, when I tell people about being in Dubai, etc., I feel like in their minds it's not achievable to come to Dubai. I mean, I came, I did it, but it's almost like in the UK they're sort of bred to believe that there's nothing more than, I don't want to badmouth the UK as well, because people are genuinely happy there and that's fine. But I think without risks there's no rewards, is there? So in the UK, what genuine risks do people take to make bigger rewards? I feel like a lot of people are in a job where they get paid a good amount. And it is about settling in a life that they are taught to believe is a normal life, which is dogs, wives, kids, marriage, blah, 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 blah. But do I genuinely believe half the people are really, really happy? I don't know. Okay,
fair enough. And you don't have a degree or anything like that? You just school straight into work?
Yeah, literally. I left
there's nothing wrong with.
16. I left at the age of 16. My first job was Debenhams in a shop. Then postcode
and now
lottery,
you're selling multi-million-dollar
Yeah.
listings on Dubai's most expensive island.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll move on to the next question. Camilla, you were an auditor at a different company and then you've worked at a few companies. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to move to Dubai and looking at being real estate? How do they find the right company?
I would say have a look at what the company do for their brokers. For example, people who are listening to this might not understand, but in Dubai, when you're on commission based, you get 50% of your commission from deals. So if I make 100k, I get 50k dirhams. Look at how much they're giving back to you. So for example, a lot of the older companies stick at the 50%, whereas now you can earn up to 70, 80% of your earnings. I would also have a look at around, if you come in for an interview or you do Skype or whatever, have a look at who's working for that company in terms of go on their Instagram, check the agents out. Is it people you can see yourself working with? Is it people that are successful? If they're successful, it's usually for a reason. 20 agents don't just walk in and become successful. There's usually training, there's usually help, there's usually higher people than even me doing real estate in our company. So it's people to look up to, it's people to bounce off of, it's people to keep looking at thinking, I can be that person if I want to be that person. So I think what they put back into their brokers, and for me, the biggest thing is the people around them. Can you see yourself making friends in that company? Can you see yourself working with somebody? Can you see that they're hungry to make money? Can you walk across the room and make money? If you look at a small company, will that happen?
Okay. Fair
That's
enough.
what I would say.
I don't have anything to add. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that. Brilliant. And then that would lead me on to my next question, which is, okay, so a broker has moved to Dubai. They've picked a company, might be White & Co, might be Agency A, whoever it is. What advice are you going to give this broker who's just moved here? They've saved up all this money. They've went, I'm going to go over there and smash it. They've had their third goodbye leaving night that every person who moves to Dubai has, another leaving night, another leaving night. What would you say to them that's going to help them to become successful in the beginning?
I would say, don't forget your why. Like, there's a reason you're moving to Dubai. There's a reason you're coming to real estate to make commission. Don't forget that. It's easy to get sucked into the Dubai lifestyle. It's easy to go out every weekend. It's easy to do all of this. But yeah, I would just not forget your why. Be dedicated to the job. Be dedicated. Like you said, Liam, who was just on before me, 6 months in the role, it's very different to what I do now. So you are going to have tough times for at least 2 years probably.
Yeah.
There's going to be months that you potentially don't bill money. Just don't let it rear you off the path of why you're here to do a job.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that would be my biggest piece of advice, is just don't let the hard times knock you down.
Okay.
Type thing.
So that's regarding the hard times. What about to do with office or to do with work and to do with, making sure that is there any sort of advice you could give with the actual work that they're doing?
Make a lot of phone calls.
Make a lot of phone calls. No worries.
Just work hard. Be the first one in the office, the last one to leave. Like, you are going to have to dedicate a lot of your life to this job in the beginning. But like I've said, 6 years down the line, you don't need to dedicate as much of your life. So what is 2 years on the grand scheme of things?
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's capped at 2 years.
No, of
it
course.
could be a year, it could be 6 months. I don't know how quick people become very successful very quickly now. For me, it took 2 to 3 years to become successful, maybe even 4. I had a lot of hurdles when I came here. But yeah, I would just say keep your head down. And like I say, 2 years in the grand scheme of things, it's not that long to just really work hard and actually make a name for yourself. When you make a name for yourself, there's a broker we know, won't name them, but they've been here for a year, and I think he's sold something like 500 million in property. That's more than what I've even done, and I've been here for 6 years. So it just goes to show you don't need to be here for 6 years to be successful either.
Do you think that person that you're speaking about done it from luck?
No, what's the saying? Eats, breathes, and sleeps real estate.
Yeah, that's fine.
Something like that.
Eats, lives, breathes real
Whatever
estate.
he does, he just loves it.
He loves it. Okay.
And you can tell it is a genuine passion of his. He didn't come from real estate. He came from car sales, as far as I'm aware.
Yep.
So it's not even like you can have this passion from when you were born. You literally come over, you see what you can do for your clients. And I think it just is as like an internal breeding ground after that.
Okay, fair enough. Fantastic. So it would be safe to say that this job is not a job, it's a lifestyle.
100%.
Separate question, just because you're further forward in your career than Liam, when's the last time you went in the office to work on the weekend? Honest answer.
Maybe like a year ago.
A year ago. Yeah. So Liam, I know, would be in the office because he still needs to do that.
Yeah.
You haven't had to do that even in the past year. No. And at the end of the day, you've earned that right.
Yeah.
So it does just again show that as you do this longer and as you get better at it and as you perform at a higher level, the demand from us is less because we know what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't mean that I'm not working at
Definitely not.
Weekends. I am, just to put that clear.
Disclaimer. She still works all the time.
I work 24/7.
Yes.
But yeah, no.
But the way that you work is different now.
Yeah. I don't need to be in the office at the weekends. I can. Neil will kill me, but I can leave at 3 to do something else if I have to, if I've got money on the board. Obviously, that to me is the biggest thing. If I don't have money on the board, then no, that's not a reason to leave at 3. But it's a very flexible job when you get to this point in your career.
When you're performing, you get left alone.
And you're at this point.
Correct.
In your career.
And when I mean left alone, I mean the conversation changes from how can we get you billing to do you need anything?
Yeah.
And that's the important part for us.
Yeah, mostly just following up about offers and whatnot rather than help on how to get the offers.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you. So Camilla, that brings me on to people who might be watching this right now. Is this industry for everyone?
I think if you've got the right drive, work ethic and motivation to do well in life, yeah. But if you don't, then no. So no, it's not for everyone.
So no, it's
Only for the people that have those.
Yes, it's for everyone if you have these.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't teach work ethic. You can't teach somebody to have a drive in life. You can't teach somebody to not go out the weekends drinking. So I think if they have the right mindset, etc., they're right for the job. If they don't, then no.
Amazing. I don't think I need to add anything to that. It's a perfect answer. We've spoke about new brokers. We've mentioned people who are moving here, brand new, starting afresh. What about the top 1% brokers in the market? I know you work with a lot of them. And what separates those guys from the other 99%?
I think it would be purely based on knowledge in terms of, for example, you can know about real estate or you can go and learn about crypto and watches and Rolexes and all these different things. And I think that's what separates the top 1% to the other people that literally just get their commission check and go. Because when you know and you can teach and people can learn from you, that's what's going to separate you from the next broker down the road, basically.
Well, something we've spoke about a lot, and especially I know that you've went away and learned a lot of it, is, you know, when you're meeting these clients who are multimillionaires, you have to be able to converse with them at a certain level.
Yeah.
When they start talking about crypto or start talking about how the dirham's pegged to the dollar or you name it, you can't just stand there going, what? No, that's not how it's going to work. So, you know, and for brokers who in this market are not just thinking, I could jump on YouTube and learn about crypto in 10 minutes. There'll be an explainer video, 10 minutes long. And some people just don't even make that effort. But I feel like, coming on from what you said, the top 1%, you are right. It's the level that they can converse at. It's the amount of knowledge they have, because if you don't have knowledge at that level, then the buyer will not have confidence in you. If the buyer doesn't have confidence, then you're going to get nowhere. Yeah,
100% agree. And it's also just about, if they ask you a question, having the answer, isn't it? So if I sit there going, let me get back to you on that one. They're not probably going to trust me in the future. So it's like, it's always keeping your knowledge up to date, whether it's mortgage rates or it's conversion rates, or it's, have you got somebody that can clean my house? Yep, here's a number right now. Like, it's just about having the knowledge about Dubai and stories. Aiden says it quite often. It's about storytelling. So luckily I've done it 6 months, but even Liam for 6 months can use other people's stories. It's about telling a story. It's about creating that relationship where they have trust in you. They know you've done the job before. They know you've done it before. They trust that you know the process.
So what Camilla is talking about there is with our performance coach, selling with stories. It allows an emotional reaction, and with an emotional reaction, you can get a more powerful reaction. And that way, if you're a new broker to the market, you don't have the amount of stories Camilla has. Camilla has 6 years worth of stories, but what you can do as a new broker is you can borrow stories from colleagues around you. And, you know, if you've got a client who says, oh, I don't want to take this, instead of just saying you're going to miss out, you would explain, well, actually, this happened with a client I just had, and they missed out because of this, and then that meant that this happened, and you're able to base a story. Sorry, Camilla, I'm just having to explain that to the audience.
Literally, and I think it's just about... it's just about the experience that comes from that. It's not to say lying, telling them the story is yours, because you will get caught out in the end. But even just to say my colleague had this happen to them, or whatever the situation be, is like, people are going to buy from people they know have sold before. So even if you've not done a deal before, don't say you've not done a deal before. Talk about a deal you did in the UK that they don't know. But I think it's just about being personable. It's about them liking you, being able to have a conversation with you, being able to like you as a person. Like,
of course, making sure you're personable, because people buy from people.
At the end of the day.
Brilliant. So that's what it takes to become a top 1% broker.
Moving
away from brokerage and more onto Dubai. I'm a huge advocate for Dubai. I love the place, as you know, and I think you do too. What makes you love Dubai, and is this place now home?
Absolutely. In terms of home right now. Why do I love Dubai? I think just the safety aspect. For example, I was literally just home in the UK and sitting eating dinner, and I literally watched somebody get their phone taken from their hand. So that to me is the biggest thing, is the safety aspect of Dubai. The weather, the fact that I can kind of do what I want on the weekends and not have to think twice about the rain. When we do get rain, I absolutely love it though. And I think just things to do. Like, there's always something different happening in Dubai. Like, you've got the DP World Challenge, and is it that?
The golf,
In November, you had the World Cup just in Qatar in November. So just the aspect of so many things are coming to Dubai as well. Like, again, you don't know who the next person is that you're going to meet. You could be sitting in a restaurant and Neymar walks in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it's just the fact that Dubai is so evolving.
Yeah.
And it's growing, as I've said at the start, it's growing
rapidly.
And it has grown.
Yeah.
Grew. Since I came. So yeah, I think, what do I love about Dubai? Everything.
Fantastic.
Tax-free.
Tax-free, yeah.
Tax-free.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And that then leads me on to, okay, so that's about Dubai, but what do you enjoy doing here? So you've mentioned a few things, safety there. What hobbies or interests have you got? And have you ever found it hard here to make friends?
No, I have quite a big group of friends. I did at the start. I did find it tough. But again, you've got to remember, you're not in a country where you went to high school with half these people.
Yeah.
So it is always going to be challenging to make friends in any country. If you went to Australia, it'd probably be the same. But this is where I think it also comes back to which company you start to work for. Because that is where you are spending all your time in the beginning.
Yeah.
So you need to be working with people who you can genuinely see yourself having a friendship with as well.
Yeah.
I know a lot of brokers have reached out to me on Instagram, and I will have a conversation with them, and I think that makes them feel more comfortable about coming over. But no, I haven't. Like I did find it difficult in the beginning, but everyone's gonna.
And the majority of your friends now are in real estate or not in real estate?
Everybody's in real estate.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Great, can never escape it.
Yeah, literally everybody, as far as I can think. Yeah, everybody's in real estate, but I think we all have the same job. We all have the same. We know. Do you know what I mean?
I suppose it's a good thing if you
Yeah.
ever need to bail on plans and you say, I've got a viewing. They can't
Yeah.
be like, oh, what's that all about? Because they probably understand.
Yeah, and they also just understand in terms of if I'm sat on my phone and I'm talking to a client, they know that I need to do that. Whereas sometimes I do find it difficult being around people that are not in real estate.
Because they think that we're rude.
And they just don't understand it. It's not anything on them. They just don't understand how. If I don't answer that text within an hour, they could be talking to somebody else.
An hour? 10 minutes?
1 minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I have a really good group of friends around me. I'm very lucky. We're a very tight group of friends. I would go as far as saying they're my family now.
Amazing.
When you don't have family over here, it's always important to have very
These are the
close
ones you can
friends.
choose.
Yeah. So
and that led me on to the other question there was, what do you enjoy doing in your spare time?
So socialising with my friends. Yeah, I mean, I don't live that much of a different life to what I would do if I was in the UK in terms of, I don't really brunch and things. I do sometimes, but I'm not out every weekend. So socialising is the biggest thing, shopping, going for lunches, just chilling out. When you lead such a busy life in terms of real estate, it's nice to chill out the weekends. Yeah, going for staycations, going on holidays.
Yeah.
I've been back to the UK, I think 6 times this year, 3, 4, 5,
Oh, God.
something like that. So it shows how much I do like to go back to the UK as well. But yeah, I think for me, like in Dubai, yeah, I just like to chill. But I have actually created a to-do list of things to do in Dubai that you wouldn't do unless you lived here, if that makes sense.
Okay, got you. So it's less touristy things, and
so
more
that-
things that you'd want to do.
Yeah, so eventually, if I do leave Dubai, I've done all the
Everything.
stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. And then that would lead me on to the next question, which is if someone's sitting on the fence at the moment in the UK, in America, wherever the viewer may be, and they want to move to Dubai, or they want to try real estate, or they want to just get out their hometown or their home city, but they're not sure, they're on the fence, what would you say to them?
I would say, like I basically said it earlier, what's life without risks, right? So I actually just spoke to somebody very recently who was on the fence. I think he's actually joining us now in next month.
Great.
But he was on the fence. He was on the fence to begin with, in terms of how much to save, etc. And what are you waiting for, really? There's always going to be something that comes along. If you wait 3, 4, 5 years, there's always going to be something that comes along and changes that.
Yeah.
I would say that Dubai is rapidly expanding, as I touched on earlier. You've got sort of Saudi that have now got Ronaldo and Neymar. You've got us that have got the Royal Atlantis, for example, that had Beyonce, etc. They're doing a lot to put Dubai up there as one of the leading countries
for
in the
expats.
world. Yeah, for expats. So I think if you were to wait, it's all about what could you have done in the time that you waited.
If I had only been here this many years ago, think of where I could have been.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're telling them no risk, no reward.
No risk, no reward. Yeah, I think do it. If you're thinking about it, the only thing time is going to do is talk you out of it.
Yeah, it's a good point. Very good point. Thank you. Camilla, you've been in real estate for 6 years. I'm sitting here talking about how you're one of our highest performers. You have made some mind-blowing money, I would say, for someone especially at your age. What is the most commission or incentives that you've made in a month at White & Co?
The most commission I've made in a month was actually about 2 years ago. I did an off-plan deal, and I made on the board about 1.6 million from an off-plan deal. Incentive-wise, I got 2 Cartier rings recently.
Great.
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest commission I've had.
So 1.6 on the board, you're 70% broker. Did we have the 10% incentive at the time?
No.
Oh, what a shame on you. But that would mean 70% of 1.6 million. You're looking at around about 1.2 take home. That's £240,000 in a month. Not in a year, in a month. And that was a sale in one PAM, if I remember.
4-bed. Yeah, 4-bed, 35 million.
So a 4-bedroom, 35 million, 5% commission paid directly to White & Co from the developer. So it's not the buyer that paid, it's the developer that paid us. And then, that buyer came from?
A lead from Property Finder.
Which was
on a rental actually
lead.
At the time.
I remember it.
We were allowed to do both at the time. So, it came from a rental lead. And honestly, I would say that was probably, as weird as it's going to sound, is the easiest deal in my life.
Yeah, I remember.
It came in on, like, let's just say a Monday, and by the Friday I'd closed everything. So it wasn't even like it had been going on for months. I've had deals that are way less than that have gone on for 2 or 3 months. So this the life in Dubai, literally you just don't know what's around the corner.
No, definitely.
The land of opportunity, so everyone says.
To think the moment you did that deal, there was like 8 of us in an office.
Yeah.
And that was it.
It was when we just started. We opened in January and I did it in the February. So yeah, literally. And that's the biggest commission to date. Striving to do that again.
That again. Hey, we're getting close. We're working on it. And that moves me on to my final question, which is leaving a little bit of wisdom for anyone who's watching, and all the guys have put something forward for this. Now, what's a statement or a quote or a saying that you live by?
I don't really live by quotes, but I would say I've said it multiple times. What's life without risks?
What's life without risks?
What's life without risks? Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me. And I think, and that goes in terms of everything, not just job, like everything.
Okay.
What is life without risk?
Fantastic. I won't even press any further on that. Brilliant. I really appreciate you coming and doing this. I know how busy you are, and it's been a struggle to get a hold of each one of you, because trying to get your top agents in here, or high performing agents, you're all so busy and the market is hot. Thanks so much.